Hello everyone. Am I audible and visible to all of you? Raise your okay. All right, great. So we are going to take up the mains analysis of 2021 UPSC Civil Services examination, and today, tomorrow, and day after tomorrow, we are going to do a very broad analysis as to what was the paper, what has important component in this particular year. All of that we are going to take up, and this is something which we do every year after the mains examination, right? If you are aware with our YouTube channel, you must have gone through the last year's analysis and even prior to that. When we do the analysis, we take up each and every question. We break it down to the level to understand why that particular question was asked in that particular year. When we do the analysis every year, we try to figure out each and every question. Why was it asked, right? Why? What were the sources you could have referred in order to be able to answer that question in the actual mains examination? And along with the analysis, we also provide the sample answer, which you could have written for yourself. And that we will do this year as well. But while going through this extensive analysis, we pay a lot of attention while creating and coming up with these videos and live analysis. What we have figured out in the past years that students often do not go through the complete analysis. And it pains us because we put a lot of effort in coming up with this analysis for you. And when we see that a lot of students, their enthusiasm wanes at the discussion progresses from GS 1, 2, 3, 4 towards the essay paper. And so initial 5 to 7 minutes, we are going to talk about the importance of the analysis of the mains paper. And this goes for prelims as well. And so I want your attention for initial 7 minutes so that this idea of importance of the analysis of mains paper gets ingrained into your mind. All right. So the analysis of paper is very, very important for all the aspirants because first and foremost, it helps you understand the precise expectation of the UPSC. Then there are a lot of trends or patterns within UPSC which are very, very visible. We are clearly visible if you look into the previous year question paper, right? And then finally, when you are going to appear for the next year's examination, the previous year question analysis, mains analysis is the way through which you can fine tune your preparation. All right. So let's understand how you can understand precise expectation of the UPSC by analyzing the paper. So the first part in understanding the expectation of UPSC from you is to understand the link between the syllabus and the actual questions which are being asked. We have seen the syllabus is quite extensive of GS 1, 2, 3, 4, right? How many of you have actually looked into the syllabus of GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4? Raise your hands. All right. So if we take an example of GS paper 2, the syllabus, there is a line in the syllabus which says Parliament and state legislatures, structure, functioning, conduct of business, powers and privileges and issues arising out of these, right? This is what UPSC expects from you as far as the syllabus goes. But when it comes to the actual question, in 2021, UPSC asked, explain the constitutional provisions under which legislative council are established. So this one part can be completely answered from your prelims level knowledge. You will mention the articles, you will mention all those provisions which have been given in the Lakshmikant. But there is a second component to this question as well. Review the working and current status of legislative councils with suitable legislations, right? So when UPSC has defined a syllabus as Parliament and state legislatures and their functioning, a question on functioning has been directly asked by UPSC this year. Is this point clear? So syllabus is very wide. You directly understand the correlation between the syllabus and the actual question which is being asked, right? Then the next part is when you go through the previous year question analysis and the analysis of mains, you understand the weightage of static as well as current affairs. You understand the exact balance or why a particular question was asked. For example, there is a line in the syllabus under GS paper 3 which says disaster and disaster management, right? All of us know that India is a vast country. It is inflicted by a lot of disasters throughout the year. You have heat wave, you have cold wave, landslide, cyclones, earthquakes, whatnot. And so a person who is not looking into the question would not understand that a lot of questions from disaster directly come because they were in news that particular year, right? And so the trend has continued in 2021 as well. Describe the various causes and effects of landslides. Mention the important components of national landslide risk management strategy. Because in September 2021, there were series, a spate of landslides, both in Uttarakhand as well as along the Western Ghats. And so landslide was one event, one kind of disaster which made a lot of news. And so that is why UPSC directly asked question on that. However, if you are not aware about the relevance of current affairs in disaster management, you are going to prepare all 13 disasters, everything, and it will become very cumbersome. Your preparation will become very vast. All right, is this point clear to everyone? Okay, then UPSC follows a lot of patterns which can be clearly identified if you look into the mains questions and analyze the previous year questions, right? So for example, the first thing which you can clearly identify through the analysis is what are the focus areas. And for that, I will show you the distribution of the question in past 5 years in GS paper 3 economy section. As you can see, these lines are directly from the syllabus. Each line has one paragraph: infrastructure, industrial policy, budgeting and taxation, inclusive growth, agriculture, land reform, food processing, right? Now, if you understand the preparation in such a way that if you are allocating equal amount of time and effort to each and every line of your syllabus, you are going to put equal effort in industrial policy and the same amount of effort in agriculture section, right? But look at the distribution year on year. Whereas there has been no question from industrial policy in past 3 years, agriculture is continuously getting the highest weightage of all. And so if a person who is allocating equal weightage because he or she considers that they both are equally important, that is because that person has not analyzed the previous year questions. So when you start preparing for GS3, you know that agriculture is the first thing you have to prepare, through which you can ensure 50 marks immediately. And if the time permits, if you have some time left, then maybe you can look into some basics of industrial policy, knowing very well that even if a question is asked, that wouldn't be more than one question, 15 marks or maybe 10 marks, right? Is this point clear to everyone? Okay, we will take up all the questions, but let's first get done with this. Then apart from focus areas, there are a lot of repetitions in the way the questions have been asked. Now, by repetition, I don't mean that UPSC is copying and pasting the questions from previous year, but the themes are being repeated. And to demonstrate it to you, there is a line in GS paper 1 which says effects of globalization on Indian society, right? So Indian society consists of caste, consists of religion, consists of various types of gender, consists of rural, urban people, consists of people belonging to various ages. And so when you prepare effects of globalization on Indian society, what you are essentially preparing is effect of globalization on gender, on caste, on religion, on urban and rural, on India's culture as well, right? That is how you're going to prepare this topic, right? Let's see how UPSC in 2016 formulated this question. UPSC asked, to what extent globalization has influenced the core of cultural diversity in India? So, effect of globalization on India's culture, right? Is this point clear? Whether it has led to decline in diversity or some other impact that it might have. In 2018, globalization is generally said to promote cultural homogenization, right? In 2020, UPSC asked, are we losing our local identity for the global identity? You can see a running theme, which is impact of globalization on Indian culture across 3 different years, skipping 1 year. Is this point clear? So now when you prepare GS paper 1, having looked into the previous year questions and having done this extensive analysis, you already know that impact of globalization on Indian society is important. But even within Indian society, what you have to focus upon is impact of globalization on Indian cultural aspects. Is this point clear to everyone? All right. So focus areas, repetition, and to what extent you have to go into the syllabus to cover a particular syllabus point. And to demonstrate it to you, I would take this line of the syllabus from GS paper 1, which says the freedom struggle, its various stages, and important contributions and contributors from different parts of the country, right? each and every movement across the world is led by leaders, but then they won't be successful if they do not have the following or the masses along with them, right? But at the same time, it will be very difficult for the leaders to entertain or take along these masses for a very long time if that movement is devoid of ideology, right? So when we talk about the contributions, we also talk about masses. We talk about, among masses, we talk about religion. We have to prepare areas from where the contributions came. Also, the contributions of ideology is equally important, right? And that is how we prepare our students. All of those who have gone through either our foundation courses or quality improvement program, they know already that this is the way we do the analysis. In 2019, UPSC asked, since the decade of 1920s, the national movement acquired various ideological strands. So of course it's true. Since the beginning of 1920s, the ideological base of Congress got widened. It included communists, already had extremists and moderates, right? Then socialists, farmers' causes, industrial workers, all got accumulated within the broader spectrum of the India's struggle for independence. 2020, many voices had strengthened and enriched the nationalist movement during the Gandhian phase. What is Gandhian phase? Gandhian phase is nothing but since 1920s. Gandhiji arrived in India in 1916, took 1 year off, 2 years off, did his own experiments with the Indian politics and Indian masses. And then in 1918, we see his real impact coming. And so that is why since 1920s, and then arrival of the Gandhi. All right. So if you walk into 2021, you already know that this is the extent up to which you have to cover this line of the syllabus, which talks about contributors and contributions. Apart from that, in 2017, UPSC had asked, why did moderates fail to carry conviction with the nation about their proclaimed ideology and political goals by the end of? Again, a question on ideology, moderates. Combining the information from 2019, 2020, and 2017, what you have in 2021 is to what extent did the role of moderates prepare a base for the wider freedom movement? So this question is not only a continuing theme as far as the broader syllabus of contribution is concerned, it's also a repetition from 2017. Is this point clear to everyone? All right. So I think I have given you enough number of points to ingrain this idea into your minds that whenever you are preparing for civil services examination, especially the mains level, you cannot skip even a single discussion on this particular year's mains analysis, right? So you have to acknowledge the fact that mains analysis or prelims analysis, the analysis of the question paper is very, very important. Based on the analysis, you have to assess your own level of preparation. You have to judge where you stand currently. If you are preparing, especially if you are preparing for 2022, so that means you only have 7 to 8 months for your mains examination. And so you have to act accordingly. You have to find out the weak areas. You have to plug the loopholes in your preparation, right? So if I have to demonstrate it pictorially, I would take the help of this image, which actually will demonstrate the importance of the mains analysis. You see, selection in an examination is a combination of, luck, hard work, and strategy, right? Most of us do hard work, but not a lot of us get selected, right? The main factor which we have identified is the lack of strategy, because if you see on this image, these three people are doing hard work. You cannot deny their hard work in trying to push that block. And that block can be envisioned as the syllabus of UPSC. But the person who is equipped with the strategy, who is equipped with the previous year question analysis, has already understood the syllabus very well. And so he is the first one to clear the race. Is this point clear? Okay. So let's now begin. Let's now first understand the plan, how we are going to do it. So today and tomorrow, we will do the broad analysis and the trends of this year. Right, on 17th, on 18th, on 19th. Today GS paper 1 and 2, tomorrow 3 and 4, and day after essay. Whereas each question analysis will be released in a form of a single video on our YouTube channel from 21st January onwards. Because if you go to our YouTube channel and look into the past year question analysis, you will understand that we do a very detailed analysis of each and every question. For that, we need at least 15 to 17 minutes, right? And if we do it in a live format, it will be like classes of 10 hours. And so that's why we have decided to release videos, recorded lectures of each and every question, where we are going to dissect each question, understand why was it asked, understand what are the points or the dimensions you could have covered. And along with that, we will also provide the sample answers. For all those people who belong to our foundation batches, subjects, your teachers are going to take up all those questions belonging to their own subjects in the coming week. So is this point clear? Let's now begin quickly with the GS paper 1 and understand the distribution. It has remained just like the past years. 8 questions from geography, 6 questions from history, and 6 questions from society. But if you look into the distribution or the weightage of the marks given, geography got not only the highest number of questions, but also 38% of the marks, 95 marks were allocated to geography, 32% to society, and 30% to history. But this changes with one question. So even if I put one question from geography to history, which has happened in the past, the distribution would look the same, except for the fact that colors will change. So there is not much in this pie chart, but you should understand that when you prepare, history, geography, and society are equally important, right? Because almost the same number of questions have been asked from all of them. So I will discuss on the geography part. If you look into the syllabus of GS paper 1, the syllabus has 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph is salient features of the world physical geography. So that we can colloquially call as physical geography, although UPSC does not say so. UPSC just says salient features of the world physical geography. Then the second part is all about the distribution of the mineral resources and economic geography, dealing with the location factors of the primary, secondary, and tertiary industries. So that is economic geography. The third part is more dynamic, which talks about disasters, right? It talks about the climatic phenomena and the variation in the location of these climatic phenomena. Let's now look into the questions and try to understand why that particular question was asked. So these are the 8 questions which were asked from geography, right? The question number 4, 5, 6, 7 belong to the, and 8, it has been misnumbered. And question number 14, 15, and 16 were from geography. Question number 4, differentiate the causes of landslides in the Himalayan region and Western Ghats. So there were 2 questions on landslide this year, one in GS paper 1 and one in GS paper 3. And we will understand how they were different. And we have already seen landslides were in news throughout the year. The second question was, despite India being one of the countries of the Gondwana land, its mining industry contributes much less to its GDP in percentage. So the question wants to say that all those countries which eventually separated from Gondwana land have a lot of mineral resources and a very high contribution to the GDP of mining sector. But that is not the case with India. And this question was asked because if you remember, in month of September, we went through very extreme coal crisis, right? There was one point of time our thermal power plants had coal only enough for next 3 days to follow up. And so the government of India acted, and Coal India Limited had to work throughout the day and night to increase the supply of the coal. And so this question was triggered because we have one of the world's largest reserves and resources of coal. But even after that, but despite that, we have to import a lot of coal because our mining sector is very inefficient. And so the issues related to mining sector, it was expected that he would discuss the issues related to mining sector in this particular answer. Then the next question is a repeated theme from past many years. In past years, a lot of questions have been asked with respect to urban floods. And one of the most important reasons which have been identified as a major cause leading to urban flood is the disappearance of water bodies or wetlands because of encroachment, reclamation. And we know that water bodies or wetlands act as a great sponge which take up a lot of water when it is excess of water. And then at the same time, when there is a drought-like situation, they keep on releasing that water. So what are the environmental implications of reclamation of water bodies into urban land use? So instead of directly asking about the causes of the flood, because in 2021, Chennai and many other cities were grievously impacted with the flood, you had to explain it with the causes. Question number 7 was about volcanic eruptions. You know, in the month of October and November, for 3 months continuously, a volcano erupted in Spain, in Canaries Island, right? Group of islands. So again, this question on volcanic eruption talks about mention the global occurrences. So it's basically about location factor. You have to draw a world map. You had to pinpoint those locations where volcano erupted. So there were 2-3 major instances of volcanism in 2021. You had to describe them and their impact on regional environment, which has been discussed in the 6th assessment report of IPCC, which we'll come to, because there was a question on that also. Then question number 8 was straight out of NCERT. Why is India considered a subcontinent? So this is something which all of us have read in the school, and this is directly written in one of the paragraphs in first chapter of NCERT class 11, that is India Physical Geography. And so you had to talk about how it has a different plate of its own, which is known as India-Australian plate, right? It is separated from its surrounding by mountain chains. On the south, you have an ocean. So this is what is a basic. And apart from that, it has its own cultural niche, which separates the culture of the continent from other continents. All right. The question number 14 was briefly mention the alignment of major mountain ranges of the world and explain their impact on local weather conditions with example. This is pretty static question. When you prepare geography, you not only prepare planetary winds, right? But you also prepare local winds. So this is a topic which actually combined or tested your knowledge from 2 different topics. One is mountain building or plate tectonics. The second is local winds, which is a part of your climate chapter. So you had to combine the knowledge of mountain ranges, you have to draw them, and you had to talk about how Chinook is being impacted because of, all of us understand, right? How Himalaya plays a role in creating a unique kind of climate in the Indian subcontinent. All right. Question number 15. How do the melting of Arctic ice and glaciers of the Antarctic differently affect the weather patterns and human activities on the Earth? Explain. Now, this question was asked because IPCC released its 6th assessment report. All of us are aware about that. IPCC comes up with a report every 5 years, and in between it releases many minor reports on various ecosystems. So this was the time when IPCC came up with a report which actually sent out shockwaves across the world, because it says that anthropogenic global warming and climate, there are undeniable evidences in support of anthropogenic global warming. So this is the first time when IPCC has stated it clearly that global warming is not only happening, that was established earlier also, but now IPCC has gained confidence in the evidences which it has collected, that not only global warming is happening, but it is due to anthropogenic factors. And in that, it describes how Arctic and Antarctic ice mass and glaciers, ice caps are melting, and what are the impacts which it's having on the various kinds of regions and ecosystems. The last question was discuss the multidimensional implications of uneven distribution of mineral oil in the world. You can say this is partially static, or you can also call it a current topic, because of the fact that these OPEC countries, they act like a cartel. They have monopoly over the supply of the oil. And so during the times of COVID, when the demand across the globe fell sharply, it was expected that the prices of the fuel would come down, but they did not, because to meet the challenge of falling demand, they reduced the supply to a great extent to maintain the prices at the same level. And so this is one of the reasons when you have concentration of mineral oil or any kind of natural resource at one place, those countries or group of countries have absolute monopoly over the prices. All right. So if we talk about balance between the static and the current, you can see that out of 8 questions, 5 questions, the landslide, mining, reclamation of water bodies, volcanic eruptions, and Arctic ice and Antarctic ice, they can be directly mapped to the current affairs. Although I would not say that the concepts which are required to answer that question or the points which you are going to include would be totally current affairs. But the reason because of which these questions have been asked in 2021 is because of the current affairs. Is this point clear? Whereas the question number 8, 14, and 16, they do not have any kind of direct correlation with the events which occurred in 2020 or 2021. All right. Let's now take up one question. We will discuss its sample answer, and then we will move on to the history, which will be taken by Jatin sir. And then I will discuss this question in the set of videos also. So look at these 2 questions. One was asked in GS paper 1. Another one was asked in GS paper 3. Although this is a discussion on GS paper 1, we'll keep ourselves limited to the first question. I just want to demonstrate it to you how syllabus plays a key role in the way the question has been framed. The paper 1 says important geophysical phenomena such as earthquake, tsunami, volcanic activity, cyclone. Does not mention landslide, but mention etc., which means you have to cover other disasters as well. The question is differentiate the causes of landslides in the Himalayan region and Western Ghats. Fine. The syllabus of GS paper 3 under disaster management says disaster and disaster management. All right. Look at the question. Describe the various causes. Same. You have to talk about causes again in GS paper 3 and the effects of landslides. Mention the important components of the national landslide risk management strategy. Now, this part can never be asked in GS paper 1 because it's about how to deal with the disaster. So while GS paper 1 keeps its focus mainly towards the causes of the disaster or its locations, the focus of the GS paper 3 is always, inevitably always on the management of that particular disaster. And so when you prepare the same topic in GS paper 3, you have to combine it with the disaster management guidelines released by NDMA. And we will see how it has led to the, so this is the first question. Differentiate the causes of landslides in the Himalayan region and Western Ghats. So if we talk about the main demand of the question, which is going to be addressed in the body part, you have to talk about the causes, but talking about causes would not be sufficient unless and until you differentiate as to which are the causes specifically for the Himalayan region and which are the causes for the Western region, Western Ghat region. But we know what landslide is, we know what are the major causes, and it's really difficult to completely put them into silos. It's not like only 2 factors are responsible for landslides in Himalayan ecosystem and other 2 factors are responsible for Western Ghats. For example, anthropogenic factor is responsible for rainfall in Himalayan region because we have decided to widen all the roads leading to Char Dham Yatra. And so because that became one of the major reasons for landslide. But talking historically, generally, the main reason why landslides occur in Himalayan region is because of the tectonic activity. So that is the primary guiding force, seismic activity. Whereas Western Ghats belong to seismically inactive region. It's quite stable. And so there the major region is mining. Major reason behind the landslides is the mining activity. So that is why we have designed our sample answer. We will just take up this question again. Your introduction should talk about, you can also directly define the landslide if you are not aware of the fact that 12% of the land area in India is prone to landslides according to NDMA. Whenever you use a fact, it's important to attribute the source as well. And 2 areas majorly contribute to maximum instances, of course, Himalayan and Western Ghats. Then, since this is a very, this is a question which does not require multi-dimensional analysis, it's a nice idea to convey to the examiner why this question was asked. And so in the next line, you communicated to the examiner that the year 2021 was marked by extensive events of devastating landslides occurring in both these regions, right? Then directly moving on to the body part, but at the same time laying the base for the body part, the sample answer talk about, while the overall causes of landslides, which are geological, physiological, climatic, and anthropogenic. So you gave an idea about, to the examiner that you are aware about all the causes of the landslides, right? So you said that while the overall causes of landslides remain the same overall, their priority changes depending upon the region. Is this point clear? So while the causes are going to remain the same, either for the Western Ghats or for the Himalayan region to a large extent, but the primary reason why there are landslides, so many landslides in Western Ghats, is because of the unimpeded mining activity, whereas in Himalayas, leading cause is active plate tectonics causing frequent earthquakes. Then protracted high intensity rainfall. We know that Western Ghats are the region which receive around more than 200 centimeter of rainfall every year, and that too in the 3 months period. And in the QIP classes, in the mains QIP classes, we have understood how high rainfall is a leading factor behind the landslides, where the second most important reason why landslides occur in Himalaya is because of they being young fold mountains, unconsolidated loose sediments. And so That is why. And then of course, deforestation and construction activities, and then extensive anthropogenic. So anthropogenic factor is causing a landslide in both the locations, but that is not the primary cause in case of Himalayas, but that is the primary cause in case of Western Ghats. At the same time, it would have been a nice idea if you could draw a diagram or a map showing the Western Ghats, Himalayas, and the factors, so that you reduce the pain of the examiner to go through the answers, because diagrams are something, the information can be very easily communicated with the help of diagram. That is why we draw diagrams. So by looking at this diagram, the examiner can immediately understand where your answer is going to go. All right. Then finally, the conclusion: the causes behind landslides might vary from region to region. The increasing imprint of anthropogenic interference is clearly visible in both the cases, right? Because we have seen anthropogenic factors in both the cases. In this regard, it is time for all the mountain states to take steps. For example, we know that Kasturi Rangan report on draft eco-sensitive zones it has been shelved by states, and states are protesting against it. But if we do not go ahead with certain similar kinds of measures, we are going to face these kinds of disaster more often, right? So this is a very short and crisp discussion, because today and tomorrow we have to take up all the major themes, but we will do a much detailed analysis in videos per question, one video. So when it comes to the coverage, since you are our students, it is our duty to make you feel that you are in safe hands. And so if you look into the mains compass, this is the mains compass. You open the page number 51. This is the last line, the Himalayan mountain ranges, and it goes on to the next page, talking about what are the major causes in Himalayan ecosystem and what are the major reasons in Western Ghats, right? Similarly, when in the same breath, let's cover the second question also, which talks about describe the causes, the effects, and landslides, mention the important components. And if you see, this is a snapshot of your QIP mains classes, a question in our mains test series. It is difficult to pinpoint a single cause, discuss various causes, right? And so we discuss the causes, we discuss the impact, and we also discuss what has been directly asked in the mains question, which is National Landslide Risk Management Strategy. Apart from that, we also covered the NDMA guidelines. So if the question would have been on the NDMA guidelines for landslide also, that would also be covered in your QIP classes, Compass, Focus Magazine, DNS, whatever, right? So what are the takeaways as far as geography section is concerned? Geography was a mixed bag of current affairs and static, but this time the more weightage has been given to the current affairs, right? Even one question has been directly asked from the NCERT, which was about the subcontinent. As far as the resources which you can refer to prepare all the 3 paragraphs of geography are NCERT class 11th and 12th. There are 4 books: India Physical, World Physical, India Economic Geography, and World Economic Geography. 4 books. Most of the questions can be answered from there. What remains from there on will be definitely covered in your class notes. If you belong to our foundation class, they will be covered in Focus Magazine if you are not our students. And all those people who have joined GSI QIP classes, you have seen how this question was directly from that was discussed in the classes as well. And when we will take up the rest of the questions in upcoming videos, we will show you how the questions have been directly mapped to our resources. All right. So this is it for as far as discussion of geography is concerned. I will hand over the mic to Jatin sir, who is going to take up history, and from then Raja sir will take up society, which will complete the GS paper 1, and then we will take up the doubts, because we have to cover a lot of length and breadth today.
Well, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to the second half of this discussion of GS paper 1, where I, Jatin Bhardwaj, will be discussing about the history related questions which were asked in this paper. As the above sir has already stated that 6 questions from history were asked this year, and to the surprise which was not given by the UPSC last year, the surprise was that this year they have covered every part of the syllabus. Like last year, what UPSC has done is that they missed on world history and post-independence. But this year, they have completed this syllabus mapping, and they have taken almost every section of the syllabus, reducing art and culture and increasing the weightage of modern history. So in this discussion, what we will do is that we will dissect the 6 questions. We will map those 6 questions with the syllabus and see from which part of the syllabus these questions were asked. And we will also look into the repetition of the themes, because most of the time what happens is that students find it difficult to see those areas in history which are repetitive. History does not have high weightage and sometimes it remains 0 as far as current affair is concerned. And history is one of the most static and first part of your general studies paper. Today we'll dissect these 6 questions and I will take one question in detail, and from 21st of January the other questions will follow. So let's start with the first one. So this is the basic distribution of the questions, as you can see. Okay, so this is what is the weightage, the 6 questions which were asked this year. And as you can see that this year the questions which were asked in the majority form were from modern history, 3 questions. And 1 question from art and culture, 1 question from post-independence, and one question from world history. This time the medieval history saw a absence. And as you can see from this table, every alternate year there is a gap from medieval history. So based on the trend, we can predict the future also. But as of now, we will go through the current status. So in the past 8 years, what we have seen, the highest number of questions were asked from modern history, which says that your focus as far as history is concerned should be highest on modern history. Then what we see, the second highest goes to art and culture and world history. But there is a takeaway. In world history, what we have seen in the past 5-6 years, the number of questions which were asked were just 1, and that too with a surprise. The surprise element in history is highest. The syllabus is limited, hence you can see the weightage given by UPSC in this area is low, and the weightage given by UPSC on modern India is very high. So this was the macro distribution of the questions. And these were the basic questions which were asked this year. So as you can see, 6 questions were asked, 3 10-marker and 3 15-marker. Now, as you can see, I have provided the repetition of the themes, and this proves that number of times UPSC has repeated their themes. For instance, as far as Bhakti is concerned, and as far as literature is concerned, they have asked questions in 2020, 2018 twice, 2016, 14 and 13. For instance, they have asked on Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he belongs to Bhakti. Last year they asked on Persian literature or Persian literary sources. That is part of literature. It shows that UPSC is somehow repeating their themes, if not topics, as far as history is concerned. So the first question was, evaluate the nature of Bhakti literature and its contribution to Indian culture. 2 parts are there in this question. First was that you have to mention, you have to talk about the nature, that what was the exact nature of Bhakti literature, not Bhakti movement. Secondly, you have to talk about what contribution it has made to India's culture. Now, culture contributes, actually the culture constitutes everything. What we drink, what we eat, what we celebrate, how we talk, what is the status of the society, all this is part of culture. And that shows that the amount of content which you can write in this question is very wide. So you have to choose the content very wisely. Now, if we go through the mapping of this question was asked from the literature from ancient to modern times. GS paper 1, first line of GS paper 1 syllabus talks about this moment. and UPSC has asked from the syllabus itself. So we cannot say that some topics are out of the syllabus. This is directly from the syllabus. Second question, 10 marker. Trace the rise of growth of socio-religious reforms movements with special reference to Young Bengal and Brahmo Samaj. So if you have prepared well for your prelims, or if you will prepare well for your prelims, this question is piece of cake. Very easy question. 2 points. Trace the rise and growth of socio-religious reform movement with special reference to Young Bengal and Brahmo Samaj. Simply you have to talk about the contribution of Raja Ram Mohan Roy with respect to socio and religious reforms. So if you start writing anything on literature and only literature, you will end up getting less marks. So the focus of the student should be on socio-religious. So this is the key word, the core topic, the theme of the question where the entire question should be framed. This was repeated 2017 and 2019, and it belongs to this part of the syllabus, modern Indian history from about middle of the 18th century, that is. So this is your guideline, this is your threshold as far as modern history is concerned. So you have to start reading from 1750 till when? Present. This is what we normally suggest to the student, that do not get confused. Most of the students end up reading till 1947. But they have not given the word till independence. They have given the word till present. So be aware of that. Third question, 10 marker. Assess the main administrative issues and socio-cultural problems in the integration of Indian princely state. Now, after India got independence, the gigantic task of integrating over 500 princely states was in front of the policy maker. You must have read about the role of Menon. You must have read about the role of Mountbatten, and most specifically the Sardar Patel. If not, you will read very soon. That should be part of your answer in this question, with special reference to what were the administrative issues and what were the socio-cultural issues. All right. I'll just give one example. Religion or religious denominations, for instance Kashmir, for instance Bhopal, for instance Junagadh. The majority minority issue was one of the important hurdle in the integration of princely states. Then came the 11th question. To what extent did the role of moderate prepare a base for wider freedom movement? Same question with different wording was there in 2017. If you could have answered the previous question in your practice, you could have easily answered this question as well. Both these questions, the first one was post-independence consolidation. If you go through the syllabus of post-independence, there are only two topics: consolidation and reorganization. So when you prepare these topics, your focus should only be on these areas and not everything else. Question number 11 was asked from freedom struggle, its important contributors. Now moderates were part of Indian National Congress and were prominent between 1885 to 1905, after which we saw the rise of extremists. So they were the contributors, hence it is traced from the syllabus. Then there was question number 12. Bring out the constructive programs of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi is most favorite topic of UPSC from mains as well as prelim examination. Even this year also, a direct question from Mahatma Gandhi's literary contribution was asked. In mains examination, what they are asking? They are asking about the constructive program of Mahatma Gandhi during non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement. So if you are writing on Champaran, no. If you are writing on Quit India movement, no. Limit your answer to these two important events of modern India, like what Gandhiji did towards the upliftment of downtrodden, Harijans. How he contributed towards organizing the mass movement, constructive work, khadi. Your focus should be on the constructive work, nothing else. That should be the core part, and you have to write with respect to two important events, NCM and CDM. Gandhiji were repeated multiple times in the past, and this could be traced from modern Indian history. Significant events, this is part of your syllabus. Two events, NCM and CDM, are part of your events which are mentioned in this syllabus. The last one is the question 13, and this is from the world history. As I said, what they have done, they have repeated the theme this time. Previously they have skipped on post-independence and world history. This year they have included one question from each section. Now this was a bit confusing question, so let me simplify this for you. There arose a serious challenges to the democratic state system between two world wars. Between two world war means, now you should be well aware of the timeline. Between two world war here simply means 1918, 1939. Okay, 1920 to 1940 broadly. So what were the challenges to the democratic state between the two world wars? Evaluate this statement. Now what were the challenges? First of all, you should have basic idea what were the democratic states. Was India a democratic state during World War? No. But India was aspiring. There were some democratic states in Europe. America was a democratic state. So there were challenges to UK, there were challenges to America, and simultaneously there was a rise of Nazism, fascism, Hitler's Mussolini, who were against the democratic setup. They were not in favor to provide the rights to women. They were not in favor to provide rights to each and every citizen on equality basis. These were some of the threats. The entire sample answers will follow soon. Alright. So this was asked from history of the world, which will include the events from 18th century such as World War. So World War is explicitly mentioned in the syllabus, hence you have to read it in thorough manner. So this was the basic idea and how question paper was divided for history section. Now, as I said, I'll take one question and the other 5 will follow soon. So I'll take the first question. Evaluate the nature of Bhakti literature, and now and simply means that there are two parts of the body. This is your first part and this is your second part, contribution. Alright. To Indian culture, this should be answered in 150 words, 10 marker. Fair? Now, this is how you will break down the question. And you can approach the similar scheme for other papers, for other subjects as well. And with the practice of answer writing, writing the test series, MTS and others, you will be able to do this kind of categorization within 20 seconds. That's enough to get a right approach. So when you break down this question, you will find that the core theme which is asked in this question is Bhakti movement. Important for prelims as well as mains examination. Then, in fact, in Bhakti movement, there is a sub-theme which is the core demand. So, UPSC is not demanding to write on Bhakti movement. UPSC is demanding you to write on sub-part of Bhakti movement, that is Bhakti literature. Then, dimensions. What should be part of your body? 2. Nature of Bhakti literature and contribution to Indian culture. That's it. These are the two dimensions which you have to justify in your body part. And the condition is that you should write around 150 words, 6 to 7 minutes. This is the average condition. Okay, this is not a thumb rule. Okay, some students may write 10, 20 words over and above or even less. This is the condition which UPSC has given, not the time limit but the word limit. So, if we move towards the introduction, now we follow IBC. This is the basic model. intro, body, conclusion. In history question, during the other classes as well, we discussed that in the history question, the introduction and most of the other paper as well, introduction should be around the theme. So in this, as we have discussed, the theme was Bhakti movement and core demand was Bhakti literature. So either you can start with Bhakti movement, that Bhakti movement in India started during 8th and 9th century. Adi Shankara, others started with South India, then spread to North India, and till 17th century, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and others. Either you can start in this fashion, or you can directly start with Bhakti literature itself. We do not know the exact time that when this literature came into being. But however, you can write in a broader sense. Or you can start with any literary example of Bhakti movement. Any example, any literature, any literary work which were written. There are numerous, like Bijak was there, Adi Granth Sahib was there. There were works written by Mirabai. Or you can take examples from South India. The works which were written by Nayanas, Alvars and others. Alright. So you can take your introduction on this regard. I have provided this sample introduction. Most important offshoot of Bhakti movement in medieval India was the rise of Bhakti literature. One of the most, that enhanced the cultural diversity of India to further extent. Now there were 4-5 contributions from the Bhakti movement. Literature is one, then we have dances, then we have music. Alright, so these are some of the aspects which were given by the Bhakti movement. UPSC has already asked on the contribution towards socio-religious aspect of Bhakti. Now they have asked the other component. Now coming to the body part, this is how you can approach the body part. So as I said, there are 2 parts which are asked in the question, distributed with the word and. The first is nature. So what is the nature? Love and devotion. So the literature which was written, see, I am focusing only on the literature, not anything else. The literature which was written during this period, Bhakti period or Bhakti literature, was focused on love and devotion. It had all India perspective, alright. Then it was reformative, it was revivalist. They wanted to reform, they want to revile their literary work. There is an important note that this part of the question is not limited to the cultural aspect only. Here only literary nature should be written. This is a basic condition, because what happens is that sometimes when we get too easy question, we end up writing everything. Okay, that's how we get low marks. You will not get negative marks, but you will get low marks. And if you want to get a rank, you should get 45 to 50% marks in the competition in this examination. On the other side, if you talk about the Indian culture, now in order to write on Indian culture, you should know what culture is. As I said 2 minutes back, 3 minutes back, that culture is how we live our life. What we eat, what we drink, what we wear, the music, dances, paintings, a society, interaction with the society. So you can take these themes like on social equality, music, dances, religious norms, languages, paintings, society, social rituals, gender empowerment, artifacts. So you can write one-liner with examples on these points. And that's how you will approach the body part. First part, second part, and then you will move to the conclusion. So this is how you can approach. This is the sample body of this question. So nature of Bhakti literature, I have, as I said, 3 points. I have given these 3 pointers on that. I'm just going to give you one important element, example from this, the contribution to Indian culture. So I'll take, for instance, dance forms. Now dance is part of Indian culture. Alright, so you can mention dances. So dances, here you have to write a statement and give one example. So many dances across India have basis on the Bhakti literature, such as Manipuri dance, which is based on the elements, not completely, You cannot say it is completely based on Geet Govind, but yes, it has references on Radha Krishna and their stories from Geet Govind. Similarly, you can have examples on music. Bhakti literature gave rise to many musical forms, khayal, qawwalis, and this is how you are going to write. Limit yourself to Bhakti literature. Fair? Then we'll move to the conclusion. So when we come to the conclusion, we say that because of all these things, what things? Because of all these things, there was a consequence, and that consequence was very positive. Thanks to Bhakti literature, thanks to Bhakti movement, now we have different dances, art forms, and also the matured society. So you can write on how Bhakti movement brought a larger change in the Indian culture. That's how you can end your answer. Or you can also write overall role of Bhakti movement, or in fact Bhakti literature. So that's how, if you are going to write this question and its answer, or the similar question in the future, in the upcoming mains examination this year, this is how you can approach a history question here on. So as you can see, Bhakti literature was a transformative contribution to the Indian society that shaped diverse aspects of its culture and had survived centuries till now. Still we have khayal, still we have Manipuri dance, still we are following the texts which were written during this period by the Bhakti saint. So still we talk about Kabir, still we talk about Meera, and that is the reason we are still saying that it has survived till now since many centuries. And that's how you can approach this question. In the similar manner, we will also discuss the other 5 questions in the upcoming classes. Now the question is, okay, all this can be done, but how to get the good content, how to get the right approach? So when we teach about these things in the sources, in the Focus magazine, Compass magazine and others, we try to find out the core areas of demand of this examination. So in MTS 21, MT2 question 15, we have asked on the similar grounds. As you can see, we have asked the question on Bhakti movement, that too with the vernacular literature. Anyone who could have answered this question would have answered it in the mains examination as well. Then on the similar ground, we have provided this under the history compass, where we talk about all the elements and repeated topics of the UPSC and talks about the detailed analysis of these topics. And even in the QIP classes, I have taken this topic in detail. As you can see, in this class, that was the class 2 and theme 4, where I talked about Bhakti and Sufi movement. And I have talked about in detail about what should be included. And here, as you can see, I have talked about the literature with some examples. So that is how we provide the content in the similar manner. So the basic takeaway from this time in this examination was that history comparatively this year was straightforward. The question was straightforward, they were direct, and could have been easily answered by the content which you have already prepared for the prelim examination. It is just a matter of approaching the mains examination in right format and structuring your questions with good content in the right format. So this was from me from history section. Now I'll leave up to Raja sir, who will discuss the Indian society and questions which were asked in this regard.
Hello, good evening everybody. Am I audible to you? Yes. Yes. So continuing the discussion started by Vaibhav sir and Jatin sir, they have already discussed the paper analysis of geography and history respectively. Now I'm going to discuss the paper analysis of society section of GS paper 1. So first and foremost, let us understand the weightage of society in GS paper 1. As such, in the last 5 years, the weightage has been around 70 marks. Okay, but this year it is around 80 marks.
Okay. So this shows that the importance of society in GS paper 1. See, society is as important as geography and history in the GS paper 1. And often society is being sidelined or not given adequate emphasis in the preparation because of its amorphous nature, or being people might have different misconceptions about the society, saying that society questions are tough to handle or too easy to handle. So whatever may be the reason, but this weightage, the increasing weightage of society in GS paper 1 reinforces the relevance of society in GS paper 1, the subject of society in GS paper 1. Okay. And second thing, this is the first key takeaway from the weightage. And the other is, let us look at the questions. See, there are 6 questions, 2 10 markers and 4 15 markers. So the first question, which is 9th question in the paper, examine the uniqueness of tribal knowledge system when compared with mainstream knowledge and cultural system. This question is from society, the diversity. Diversity is a topic of society, salient features of Indian society and its diversity. And the other is, examine the role of gig economy in the process of empowerment of women in India. This can be mapped to social empowerment topic of society. And the 15 marker questions, the 17th, what are the main socio-economic implications arising out of development of IT industries in major cities of India? This is a straight question from urbanization topic. And 18th one, discuss the main objectives of population education and point out the measures to achieve them in India in detail. Population and associated issues. What is cryptocurrency? How does it affect global society? Has it been affecting Indian society also? This is from the topic of impact of globalization on Indian society. And the last one, how does Indian society maintain continuity in traditional social values? Enumerate the changes taking place in it. This is from the first topic of the society, that is salient features of Indian society. So if you see, these 6 questions broadly covered the entire syllabus. We have a question from salient features of Indian society. We have a question from diversity, effects of globalization on Indian society. We have a question from urbanization, population, social empowerment. So as such, out of these questions, these six questions broadly covered the all the syllabus topics of the all the topics of the syllabus, which shows that unlike other subjects, there is no concentration of questions from 1 or 2 sections of the syllabus. Okay, this shows that you cannot ignore any, or you do not have the luxury of leaving out on any point of the syllabus. Okay, this is the second takeaway from the analysis. And the third is, one should have proper awareness about the syllabus. See, the moment you see the question, you need to understand from which point of the syllabus the question has been asked. For example, let's take this question 17th. What are the main socio-economic implications arising out of the development of IT industries in major cities of India? See, there are a lot of aspirants who thought this question was from geography, especially the topic of location of industries. But if you misunderstand the question, there are high chances that you might not do justice to the question. See, in the question itself, it is mentioned that socio-economic implications arising out of the development of IT industries in major cities in India. That means this is a question from the society, from the topic of urbanization. See, if you do not understand this, you will end up writing a geographical answer. Okay, this question needs societal points. How IT agglomerations ended up changing in the social, changing in the structure of the family, the change in the culture, and intergeneration equity, intergeneration friction. All these social points, and also class inequalities. All these social points should be incorporated in the answer to make it a comprehensive and holistic answer which meets the demand of the question. Okay, so the third important takeaway is that one needs to have good awareness about the syllabus. So the moment you see the question and the question paper, you should be able to map the syllabus point from which the question has been asked to make justice to the answer. Okay, and let us understand some trends in the question. See, there are some questions which are repetitive in nature. Okay. For example, let's take this question. How does Indian society maintain continuity in traditional social values? Enumerate the changes taking place in it. 20th question in the paper. There was a similar question in 2019, which is what makes the Indian society unique in sustaining its culture? Discuss. See, seemingly the questions are similar, and the answer to both of these questions remains the same, more or less remains the same, at least the first part of the question. Okay, let's take the second question, the other one. What are the main socio-economic implications arising out of the development of IT industries in major cities of India? There was a very much similar question which was asked in 2017. The growth of cities as IT hubs has opened up new avenues of employment, but has also created new problems. Substantiate this statement with examples. It is the same question. Ultimately, the answer is, what are the social and economic implications of the growth of IT industries and IT agglomerations? That's it. So this is a repeated question. So you understand, society is a kind of static subject. Okay. So in a static subject, there are high chances that questions will be repeated. So it is very much important to go through the previous year questions when you're preparing for the mains, when you're preparing for the society section of the GS paper 1, because that will help you to understand the mode, kind of the questions that have been asked in the previous years, and also you can have a prefabricated conclusion and introduction, and also prefabricated framework to directly put in the paper when, if any similar question is going to be asked. Okay, so this is the fourth key takeaway. And one important thing and one surprising thing, if I can say, in this year paper is these two questions. See, as I said earlier, society is a static subject. We are all aware of that fact that society is relatively a static subject compared to the other subjects, where we conventionally prepared in silos and with less integration from the other parts of the syllabus and no integration with the current affairs. But these two questions, first of all, for the first time, these two questions actually emphasize the role of current affairs in a seemingly static subject like society. In fact, if you see, closely observe last year questions, there are two questions. COVID-19 pandemic accelerated class inequalities and poverty in India, comment. And there is another question. How have digital initiatives in India contributed to the functioning of the education system in the country? Elaborate your answer. See, in fact, these two questions assumed importance in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic last year. Okay, so in a way, UPSC has started, incorporating current events in the society subject last year itself, and it continued the trend for the next year as well. And I'm hoping that this trend will be continued further. So the important inference that we can take away from this trend is that we have to integrate the current affairs to a seemingly static subject like society. So it should be integrated with other subjects like polity, economy, and the regular reading of newspaper should come in handy to tackle to identify current events which are more related to the society. If you are unable to do that, you can always go through the monthly focus magazines, where we compile, in the society section, where we compile all the current related events and current related news articles which are related to the society topics. Or else you can also go through the Compass magazine. Okay. So role of current affairs is one more important takeaway from this year GS paper 1, especially the society part. Okay. So the important takeaways, important things that you have to take into account of before starting your GS society portion of GS paper 1 are these. Importance of society topics in GS1 because of its weightage, 90 marks, 80 to 90 marks. It can really, help decides your GS1 score, and awareness of the syllabus to do justice to the answer. And questions are not concentrated in any one aspect of the syllabus. They are well distributed, which means you have to concentrate, you have to cover each and every aspect of the syllabus. And repetition of the questions, being a static subject, there are chances of questions being repeated year by year. So, and role of current affairs in society section, which is very, very important inference, important takeaway from this year paper and last year paper. Okay, so you have to remember these things while preparing society portion of GS paper 1 for your mains examination. Okay, let us take a question for the discussion. Examine the role of gig economy in the process of empowerment of women in India. Okay, see, generally gig economy and cryptocurrency, these are the topics we tend to prepare from the point of view of economy. Okay, now it is the time to understand the social implications of these emerging technologies and emerging economic revolutionary economic models. Okay, this is one such question, and we have covered this topic in our Compass magazine. Okay, you can directly answer this question with this write-up given in the Compass magazine. Okay, first of all, how do we approach this question? In the introduction, you have to briefly discuss the gig economy. What is gig economy and what are its chief characteristics? Like, gig economy is a form of labor market, or it's a form of organization of work which is predominantly dominated by short-term contractual work, unlike other conventional form of labor where full-time work is a norm. Here in gig economy, technology plays a very key role. Okay, gig economy, most of the gig economy work in uses digital technologies. Okay, you can give the examples in the introduction as well. Now Swiggy, Uber, all the aggregated cab operators or food delivery apps there are a lot of platform based gig economy platforms. So you can give those examples, and if you have a stat, you can use the stat to understand, to make a point that what is the status of gig economy in India. So right now there are about 10 lakh gig economy employees in India. So that shows the status of gig economy in India. Now let us go, start the discussion on body of the answer. See, the body should be divided into basically two dimensions. The first and foremost, since it clearly said that it asked examine the role of gig economy in the women empowerment. The first part of the body should talk about how it is going to impact, how it is going to be beneficial to the women. And the second part of the answer should talk about the challenges and then conclusion. See, since this is a 10 marker question and it involves two dimensions in the body, you have to make sure that each and every dimension is as clear as possible. Okay, the first part of the body is about the benefits that emanate out of gig economy to the women. So the first and foremost, what is the basic characteristics of gig economy? Short-term work, okay, work-based payment or task-based payment, and flexible timings, and involvement of option of working from home. All these characteristics, all these features of the gig economy are beneficial, are going to encourage women to come and work. This will improve or increase the female labor participation rate. Of course, the female labor participation rate will have multiple other benefits. For example, they will have better financial independence. When women have better financial independence, they will have better agency over their reproductive choices. And when women start earning, they will end up spending more amount of money, more amount of financial resources on the nutritional needs of the family. Unlike men, most of the major portion of the women financial resources will be spent on nutritional needs of the family, and which will achieve which will tackle a major issue that is prevalent in India, that is malnutrition. Okay. And work from home gives safety to the women. See, we have sexual harassment at workplace is an issue, is one of the issues why women labor participation rate is very low. So the option of working from home gives women it helps the women to overcome this barrier as well. So all these factors help women, help in the process of women empowerment. So this is the first part of the answer. And now the second part of the answer. So if that is the case, in the last 5 years or last 6 years, in the last decade, there has been increasing penetration of gig economy in the in India, but still it hasn't associated with increasing the female labor participation rate. That means there must be some challenges, or there must be some underlying challenges which are inhibiting or preventing the women to take or to reap the benefits of gig economy. So what are the challenges? So that there are hardly, you can mention 4 challenges, because as I told you, this is a 10-marker question. To make it as crispier as possible, you just have to mention the 4 solid challenges. The first and foremost is the obvious one: unequal access to digital technologies. We know that there is gender digital divide. That means women do have less access to the digital devices, digital technologies, and women are less digital literate, compared to men. Okay, this is the first factor which prohibits or inhibits women from accessing gig economy. Okay, since most of the gig economies work on digital technology. And the other is gender bias of algorithms. So as we know, technology is supposed to be gender neutral. Unlike women, the technology is not technology does not involve values. Okay, but see, in the artificial intelligence or the new gig economy platforms work on algorithms which are fed by huge quantity of data. So often this data skewed in favor of male or female. Okay, so when this data is run through the algorithms, these digital platforms might work against women's favor. So there is an example. Recently, Amazon has developed an AI tool to screen the resumes, but unfortunately, it ended up favoring male candidates over female candidates. That means the existing inequalities in the physical world are being reflected in the virtual world as well. So this will further widen the inequalities between men and women. So gender bias of algorithms is one more important reason why gig economy is not a red carpet for women. Okay. Other is lack of social security and wage gap. See, as such, the recent labor codes, apart from the social security code, none of the other codes like code on wages or code on industrial relations or code on occupational safety standards, none of the other 3 labor codes did not explicitly mentioned about platform workers. Okay, platform workers. So nobody is sure about the social security benefits or minimum wages of gig economy. Okay, so one of the most important reasons for financial one of the important reasons for less female labor participation rate is that wage differences between men and women in the society. So even in the gig economy, they are not being provided by any social security benefits or no guarantee of minimum wage. So this will further widen the wage gap that exists in the conventional economy as well. Okay, so this is another important challenge. And sexual harassment at workplace, see, it is very naive to assume that sexual harassment at workplace exists only in the physical world, but it exists also, it also exists in the virtual world as well. It is very easy to troll, or it is very easy to stalk women employees in the on the online platforms as well. So sexual harassment at workplace is as much as a challenge even in gig economy as well. So these are the basically the broad challenges which are inhibiting the women from accessing the benefits of gig economy. So this becomes the second part of the answer. Okay, now you have to turn to the conclusion. See, for such questions, conclusion should be way out. It should be way out. You have discussed about its benefits, but still we have challenges. So what can be the way out should be the ideal conclusion. So the conclusion, you can use these points. First and foremost, you can bridge the gender digital, digital divide by better financial, so better digital literacy, providing better digital literacy to the women, and also online harassment, expediting the dispute, expediting the resolution of online harassment issues, and mandatory coverage of social security schemes of the government to the platform workers, especially the women. All these steps can help women to take the benefits of gig economy, and it will help in increasing the female labor force participation and other benefits emanate out of it. Okay, this is briefly the answer structure. I'll show you the model answer. This is the introduction. As we have discussed, the introduction contains what gig economy is all about and what is the status of gig economy. Okay, how gig economy how gig economy uses digital technology. This is a brief introduction, and in the body you have to say that the part-time nature of gig jobs, flexible working times, and option to work from home, all these things helped women to participate in the work, and this will help in encouraging the women participation in the labor force. Okay, this will have following benefits: financial independence, more spending on nutritional requirements of the family, agency over reproductive choices, skill development. Since they will have hands-on experience on digital technologies, they will end up acquiring the digital skill over the period. Okay, all these are the benefits, but again, as we discussed, these are the challenges. The challenges are unequal access to digital technology, gender bias of algorithms, lack of social security and wage gap, sexual harassment at workplace, even in the virtual world as well. Okay, so the ideal conclusion would be the way out. Okay, it is important to bridge the gender digital divide and mandatory coverage of gig workers under social security schemes of the government to enable women to reap the benefits of gig economy. So make a crisp conclusion, since it is a 10-marker question. So this is a brief discussion about the discussion of role of gig economy in the women empowerment question. And there are other questions. Glad that as I told you, we have covered this in the Compass magazine. And there are other questions. Let's say, how does Indian society maintain continuity in traditional values? Enumerate the changes taking place in it. As I told you, this is similar to a question which was asked in 2019 as well. And we have discussed this in our QIP class. Using this slide, you can answer this question. And we discussed the similar question that was asked in 2019 as well in the QIP class. So using the points from this discussion also, you can answer the question. And there is another question on urbanization. What are the main socio-economic implications arising out of the development of industries in major cities of India? So the key word is socio-economic implications. So in most of the times when we discuss urbanization, when we talk about urbanization, we only concentrate on the institutional governance issues, economic issues, and other issues of urbanization. But the social implications of urbanization is one thing that is largely being ignored. So we have discussed in the class the social issues as well, social implications as well arising out of the urbanization. Okay, so using these slides you can answer that question as well. So though the students who appeared, who participated in the QAP classes, they could take advantage of this, those QAP classes. But those who could not attend these classes, you don't have to worry, because we are going to discuss each and every question that were asked in this year GS paper in the due course of time in a series of videos. Okay, hope that will help you, and hope this discussion was helpful to you. And as I told you, all this this paper analysis should motivate you, or should help you on understanding and predicting the kind of questions that are going to be asked next year as well. So hope you incorporate all these points, and thank you very much.